What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all keeping well. Now in this video I'm making a traditional kind of shoji style lantern, a Japanese style lantern with the Kumiko with the Asanoha pattern in it. I kind of moved away from tradition a bit. I didn't use a shoji paper. I used I left mine paperless, and I have a decorative bulb in there instead, and it's given me a really nice shadow effect where it's actually going. So I quite like the design. I quite like leaving off the shoji paper. You can of course fit the shoji paper if you so choose, but I like to kind of be able to see the decorative bulb, and it just highlights that kind of Kumiko. You get different shadow effects off it depending on what angle you're looking at it, and it sets a nice kind of mood in the room. It's for decorative effect more so than actually lighting the room. So yeah, nice bit of joinery in this one. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and do it. So before we kick off and build this beautiful looking lantern, I just want to very quickly thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Tradify. Now Tradify is a complete job management platform designed for self-employed tradespeople. So if you're in the trades and you're on the tools all day and you struggle with your office work, I highly recommend you check it out. I'm a self-employed electrician. I use it and it saves me countless hours and headaches every week on my office work. It's everything from invoicing to quoting for jobs, tracking invoices, scheduling out a small crew through it. There's so much you can do with it. It saves all those headaches and it really saves time. It's super easy to generate professional looking documents and track all those documents as well. It'll help you keep on top of your cash flow, and it even ties in with your accountant software or your actual accountant at the end of the year as well. It's desktop and mobile based, so Android and iOS, so you can carry your office with you in your pocket. You don't have to keep your office in here anymore. You can keep it all on Tradify. It really helps everything out and speeds up your whole process. So I highly recommend you check it out, guys. Links to everything will be in the description below. There's a 14-day free trial, no strings attached, so you can play around with the full job management platform for 14 days, see how it helps you out. And there's a promo code MANANDSHED which gives you 50% off for your first 3 months. I highly recommend you check it out. It saves me so many headaches, so I don't mind recommending it to you guys. Now let's crack on and build this beautiful looking lamp. Okay, so let's crack on with this project. Let's take a look at what we're going to be using. Now for the main body of the lamp I'm going to be using walnut. So I've milled up some walnut here. So I have some 20 by 20 and some 10 by 10. So the 20 by 20 will be the main uprights of the lamp, and these will be the brace pieces, which will be the 10 by 10. So that's all ready to go there. For the Kumiko part and the design pattern of the lamp, I'm going to be using lime wood. Now, so I got some lime wood, I've milled it up and I've made some Kumiko strips from it. So lime wood is essentially basswood. It's called basswood in the United States. Lime wood is the European version of it. I think it's the same species of tree, so I have that. That's actually a hardwood that's easy to carve, so it's relatively soft for a hardwood species. So I'll give you a close-up of the design and then we'll crack on and do it. Okay, so here's the design pattern I'm going to use for the lamp. Now Kumiko can seem pretty complicated, as I've explained in previous videos, but once you break it down it's actually quite simple. Now I've already done the Asanoha pattern, showed you guys how to make it, so I'm not going to do that in this video. I'll crack on and make it and show you guys the end result. So I have a previous video showing you exactly how you do this. So that's going to sit in the middle of my grid. So essentially we have 1, 2, 3, 4 uprights, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cross pieces, and we're going to notch all these on the jig that I've made for my table saw. And once you break it all down, you'll see how it's going to go together. So I have my upright pieces just taped together so I can notch them all at once. I have my cross pieces again all taped together, and I have 4 sets of each because there'll be 4 sides to this lamp, and we'll have to make an Asanoha pattern for the top as well. So I just have my spacing. This is just a rough drawing. So I have my spacings 20mm, 40mm, 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 20mm. That gives me an overall length of 200mm, and it's 120mm wide. So in order to keep the square in the middle, this will be 20mm here, 40mm here, 40mm here, and 20mm here. So I can just do that on my jig, nice and quick. It sounds complicated, but when you see it all go together, it's going to be very simple. So we'll cut this on the jig now. I'll assemble the grid, show you guys, and then I'll get on and make this. And when that's done, then we can measure this out and we can make our lamp from this. Okay, so just quickly go over the jig again, which I showed you in the last video. Again, it's nice and simple. It just uses a key. So I have a slot lined up with my blade, and then I have slots cut at every 10mm, so I can space my grid in 10mm spacings. So I can just take my first cut and drop my key into any one of these, and then I have repeatable cuts at any distance I need. So I'm going to take my first cut, I'll drop my key into
20 mil, I can put my notch on that then and cut a 20 mil. Then I can move this out to 40 mil for my next one, move that slot over, and then I have even spaces of 40 mil and 20 mil, which is what I'm going to be using for this. So nice and simple, a very easy jig to use. So get this set up now so that I'm cutting exactly half the depth of one of these pieces, and we get cracking. Okay, it's just before I get cutting, I had to cut a few test cuts just to make sure my blade is absolutely perfect. So just got a couple of test pieces, take a few cuts so you're setting your blade to the exact depth it needs to be, so that when these two pieces come together, they're nice and flush on both sides. So that's nicely set up there now, so we'll get cutting into our main frame. Let's do that. Okay guys, there we go, that's our grid all cut out. Now it literally takes minutes to batch these things out. Once you have that nice little jig set up, you can really make these pretty quick. So let's get assembling our grid. Now I'm actually going to add a 5th upright piece in the middle. It's just going to make it easier to build the pattern in the center. It can be trimmed out here and here later if I feel it needs to be. But yeah, we're going to add the 5th one in. So again, it's very, very simple. This thing, you just break it down into squares. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 uprights, and then we can just click these guys in, just like that. This is actually a really good fit. Probably will not need to be glued, but I will glue it anyway just to make sure it lasts a very long time. But it's such a nice tight fit that honestly really glue is not needed. Now, there we go, just like that. So you can see we have our square pattern in the middle. It's kind of all even squares. We can trim this piece out here and here later if we want, just to highlight the Asanoha pattern in the middle. Or you can actually just leave it just like that. The square grids actually look great. You can have a shoji lamp as simple as that. Do no more with it. Just trim off the edges and this can actually sit into your lamp and it can be quite effective. And you can actually just build Kumiko patterns just with straight lines and shoji patterns just with straight lines and just use that jig and you can really batch them out pretty quick. So I'm going to assemble the rest of this. I'm going to build the Asanoha pattern in the middle of this. Now I won't bore you guys with that because you've seen me make this in a previous video. So if you haven't, go back and watch that and you'll see how this is going to be done. So I'll crack on. When that's all finished, we'll jump back in. Okay guys, there we go. That's our 4 sides for our lamp now done, and also I've just made the top piece. Now the top piece, it's no extra work, it's just going to be perfectly square. So I take the width of one of these and just make that square. So we don't have to do any extra calculations or any extra cutting. We just take these cross pieces and we build it entirely out of that. So I have 5 pieces upright and 5 pieces across the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's just the exact same cuts that we did on these cross pieces. We just use only cross pieces, which keeps it square, if you see what I'm saying. Now, I have to get on, disassemble all these and glue them all up. And when they're glued up, then I can trim off all these protruding pieces so it gets these perfectly square all the way around. And then once I have that done, I can measure for my frame. So I'll get on, glue these up. When that's done, we'll get on then and make the frame. So let's do that. Okay guys, all the Kumiko frames are glued up now. So I'm gonna let that glue dry and then we can trim the pieces. But I have my dimensions that I need from my Kumiko frames now, so I can start to build the actual frame of the lamp. So this is kind of a top-down view of one section of the lamp, just so I can get my dimensions of my frame. Now, it's just roughly drawn out, but how this is going to work is I have milled up pieces 20 by 20 and I've also pieces 10 by 10. So see if I can hold this while getting it all on camera. So 10 by 10s are going to have a half lap joint and they are going to overlap like that, and they are going to sit in to the 20 by 20 pieces. So if you can see that, I'm going to have to notch this here and here, trying to get this on camera now, and that's going to sit into the joint. So you can see on the drawing here, I'll be notching a 10 by 10 square out of the 20 by 20. I'll be overlapping these two, and that will then sit into that upright post. If it doesn't make sense now, it will make perfect sense when you see this go together. So this is my dimensions, that's how I got them. So the width of my frame from here to here is 120. So I need from post to post, or upright to upright, to be 120. Then I need 20 millimeters inside in the post, and I want to leave 10 mil protruding and do a chamfered edge. So that's how I got the length of that. So it's 10, 20, 120, 20 and 10. That gives me a total length that I need to cut these now of 180 millimeters, and the height of my lamp is going to be 300 millimeters. So that's what I'm going to cut these. So 4 of these at 300 millimeters, and I need to make 2 frames, which means I need 8 pieces of the 10 by 10 cut to 180 millimeters. So I'm going to go do that now. Let's rock on and do it. Okay, I'm going to cut my uprights first. So I'm just going to set my stop to exactly 300 millimeters, which is right there. Just lock that down and cut all these to the exact same length. Should be good. Okay, so I've reset my stop to 180 millimeters, so I need 8 of these 10 by 10s now. Okay guys, I'm going to cut my half lap, so I just have a test piece here, and that's a good snug fit. So I'm going to use the table saw to cut all these joints. So I have my blade set to exactly half the depth of one of these pieces, which is 5 mil. Now I've just marked all my joints here. So I've just taken my marking gauge, I've marked it at 30 millimeters in from both ends. That gives me 120 millimeters in from the end of my joint. Then I've taken my second marking gauge, added exactly the width of one of these, so I can pull that line right there and right there. Then all I need to do is just line up my first line with the edge of the curve in my crosscut sled, bring my stop in and set that there. Turn that piece over, I can then cut that, I can then flip it around. That'll give me the exact same distance on the other side. Then I just need to bring it in to this line here, keeping it to the other side of my curve. We don't want to make that mistake and bring it to this side of the curve, because obviously we'll be outside of our line then. So I got to keep this line to this side. So reset my stop, cut all those, both sides on all pieces, and then just take the waste out of the middle. So that's how I'm going to do this. Nice and simple. So I'll crack on and start cutting these now, and you guys can just watch me do it. Okay guys, there we go. So that's both either side of the width of my joint established with a cut there. So you can see why it's important to keep this line on this side of the curve and this line on this side of the curve. Just like that. Now, I can remove my stop out of the way, don't need that anymore, and I can just remove the waste that's in between on all these pieces. So I'll crack on and do that now, and we'll jump back in when we're cutting the upright posts. Okay guys, I have all my channels cut in the top of all my upright pieces now. So you can see I have a channel here and one at 90 degrees to it. So that's how my frame is going to sit in. So my 10mm frame is going to sit in there and there, just like that. I'll be protruding here and here. So I've got to do the same now, exactly the width of my Kumiko pattern down here, which I have my stop already set up to do. So when I'm cutting this now, I just have to be ultra careful that I'm cutting my channels on the same side as these ones, because if I don't, the piece is ruined. So just got to cut a channel, rotate it back 90 degrees and do the same thing again. So I'll get on and cut all these out down here now. You don't need to see me do this again. And when that's all done, we'll jump back in because I have a little bit of chisel work to do just to tidy everything up. Right guys, so that's how our frame is going to go together. So there's all our half lap cut in our 10x10s. So they are fitting nice and snug. Now they're not quite to depth, so I have a little bit of chisel work just to get these sitting so that they're perfectly flush. So they will just sit together just like that. Again, like I said, I have to do a little bit of chisel work to get these joints all fitting. They're quite tight at the minute. And here is our piece with our channel on both sides. So you can see now that's going to slot in there like that. When this is all flushed off, they'll slide right in and we'll have a 10mm protrusion there and 10mm protrusion there. And this actual half lap joint will be hidden inside in this. So it's going to be pretty strong. It's going to add all the strength back to it. Our Kumiko frame will sit inside in here and our four sides as well. So, like I said, I have a little bit of chisel work to do, so I get on to that. When I have all the joints fitting up nicely, we have to do a little chamfer around the edges. I'll show you doing that, and then we're almost ready to start fitting the lamp components. Okay guys, now that I have these sitting nice and flush, you can see exactly how these joints are going to go together. So that's just going to slot right in there, just like that, and sit in there nice and snug. So you can see the joint is completely housed within the upright piece, and it protrudes out just like that. So now hopefully it's all making sense. Okay guys, now that I have all the pieces fitting nicely, I'm just going to put a little chamfer detail on the edge of all these. Just going to use the little donkey-eared shooting board here. And just put a little 45-degree chamfer on the edge of all these pieces. So just like that. I'll give you a close-up on this now in a second. There we go. It's just a little chamfer detail on the top. Just want to make sure that we keep it nice and even all the way around. A little bit more of a cut on this side. And just like that. Hopefully you guys can see that, because I can't see what's on the camera now. Okay guys, the frame is together just temporarily. It's just kind of a rough fitting, but it's all fitting quite nice. Everything is good, snug and tight. And I've just sat in the top piece of the Kumiko pattern, the Asanoha pattern there, you guys can get a kind of an idea of what this is going to look like. It's going to look quite good now when it's finished, and you can see how that frame now goes together. So if it wasn't making sense up till now, hopefully now it is starting to make a bit of sense. Now, the lamp components, that's the next thing we want to do. So I need to fit a lamp holder right here in the center at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of walnut 20mm in thickness, and I'm going to sit that into two of the cross pieces in the dead center. Now I'm going to cut a kind of a blind joint. I don't want a half lap joint so that the end grain of this piece is protruding out both sides. I think that's going to take from the look of the lamp. So what I'll do is I'll actually notch this into both sides, sit it down into it, glue it in place. And yeah, so that's the next thing to do, is a little bit of joinery there. So I'm going to cut that by hand and sit in a 20mm piece into it. And then we can mount our lamp holder on that, just like that. Okay guys, it's the following day and I've just been and fit the piece to hold our lamp here. So I've just cut 2 notches into either side, a little half flap on the end of this, drill a 10mm hole in the middle of it. So it sits in nicely there like that, and that is going to hold our lamp holder. So I'll just drop that in the center. It's just a threaded insert, a 10mm threaded insert, and you just put a brass nut on the back of it to hold it in place just like that. So that's it, that's the frame. Nice and simple just to hold our lamp in. Again, I didn't want to put a half lap joint all the way through because I didn't want to see that end grain out here. I thought it would take from the look of it. So just cutting a little blind half lap into that was the way to go, and that would be absolutely perfect now to hold our bulb holder. So next thing to do is to trim up the Kumiko frames, sand everything up, and start assembling this, getting it ready for glue up. So let's do that. Okay guys, there we go. Our frame is all glued up, so that's ready to go now. So I'm going to hit this with a bit of finish, a little bit of Danish oil on it, and then I'm going to fit the Kumiko pieces. These are all finished, ready to go as well. Then I'm going to wire in the lamp parts, and I have a couple of decorative bulbs I'm going to try out, so I'll show you that when I'm doing it. But I'll crack on now and get some Danish oil on this, and we're almost there, so let's do it. Okay guys, there we go. All the finishes on it now, so just a coat of Danish oil. I want to keep the kind of natural wood look, so I don't want to put too much on it. I don't want too much of a sheen off it. I fit the lamp parts, so we have a nice brass fitting. I have some decorative braided cord here, and I have an inline switch fit to it as well. Now, I went ahead and wired this off camera because I have a full video on how to wire lamps, different types of bulb holders, different types of switching options. It's all covered in a full dedicated video. So watching me wire this up again would be quite boring. So definitely check that out if you want to see how to wire lamps for yourselves. That video will be there. So now with 2 bulb options I'm going to have a look at. So I'll get you in for a closer look. We'll have a look at those, and then we'll fit the Kumiko pattern to the lamp. Okay guys, so here's option number 1, decorative bulb. This one has a kind of a spiral pattern element in it there. As you can see, they're not very bright, they're just really for decorative effect, but they're nice to be able to look at them. And second option, and these are all LEDs so they don't get hot, which is important as well, especially if you're going to use like shoji paper in these. You don't want to use incandescent bulbs. Make sure you're using LED bulbs with any of this stuff. And here is the other option, so it has that kind of decorative element in it as well. It's almost like the old school Edison bulbs, but it's done with LEDs. So yeah, I think I might go with the spiral pattern in the center. It's a little bit brighter, so let's start fitting the Kumiko patterns around this now and see what it's like. Okay guys, so there we go, one shoji style lamp with some Kumiko with the Asanoha pattern in it. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I'm happy with my choice that I used a decorative bulb rather than the shoji paper. I quite like the look of that, and especially the effect that it's giving inside in the room where it's going to go. I'll roll in some footage of it in sitting where it's going to sit, and you guys can kind of see the shadow effect that you get off it. Again, it's more for effect than it is for actually lighting the room. It's to kind of set a mood or an ambiance, as they say. But yeah, really happy, really like the joinery on this one. It's nice and quick to build a frame, but the Asanoha pattern, or the Kumiko itself, is quite time consuming, but I have to say I do really enjoy doing it. It's just a case of take your time, get into that kind of headspace, kind of develop some patience, so you're actually developing multiple skills as you build some Kumiko. So definitely have a go. It looks complicated, but it isn't really that complicated, and you can build some beautiful lamps. And with the shoji paper, they look quite stunning as well. You can have it straight lines, there's loads of different patterns you can go with. But yeah, really happy with how that turned out. So hopefully you've really enjoyed that build, guys. Hopefully it inspires you to go out and make something. Again, if you did like it, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. It really helps me out a lot. Comments, questions below. I try to answer everybody's comment if I can. And if you're new here, think about subscribing. There's going to be more videos coming up, more lamps, more Kumiko, more Japanese style carpentry and stuff like that coming up on the channel as well. More hand tool woodworking, all the good stuff. So yeah, I shall see you in the next one, guys. Until then, take it easy.